This is the wildest survival adventure I've ever watched. They even caught a crocodile just to taste some roasted meat. They put in maximum effort. Ryan got really sick and vomited badly after drinking water. Matt and Riley were really concerned. Now, both Matt and Ryan are dealing with various physical issues. If Matt and Ryan both go down, Riley might as well head home. After throwing up, Ryan felt a lot better. Even if he still felt sick, he had to act tough, or the girl would really judge him. They were resting in the shelter. Suddenly, they spotted a squirrel. Matt grabbed his bow, took aim, and nailed it with one shot. His one-shot hunting skill is truly impressive. Riley kept cheering, "Awesome, awesome!" Although the squirrel wasn't big, it was enough for a pot of soup. Matt began prepping the squirrel, noting its skin would make great insulation. He had to handle it with care. Before long, the squirrel was cleaned and roasting over the fire. The entire area soon smelled like barbecue. They savored the crispy meat with each bite. Re-energized, Ryan felt like a man again. Even without seasoning, they found it delicious. This was normal. At home, besides making barbecue, they would also roast potatoes. For them, meat and potatoes were a gourmet dish. The squirrel's brain was fatty, so they couldn't pass up on that boost. They shared it, taking a few hours to finish the whole squirrel. Meanwhile, Gary's team had just wrapped up their grilled fish feast. They hoped the tasty but smelly fish head would lure a crocodile. Crocodiles were all over the place, but they hadn't found the right bait yet. They hoped this fish head would do the trick. Amber was eager to catch a crocodile to prove herself, as its meat boosts men's energy and enhances women's beauty. She aimed to be the wilderness's most beautiful woman. The bait in their crocodile trap remained untouched, clearly too small to attract the crocodile. After eating, Gary went back to improve the shelter, adding another wall and perfecting the roof. Only then would they be safe from the elements. Anyway, Gary was doing all the physical work now. His strength was useless at night. Amber is only helping maximum. They're still out crabbing, but I think they're after a crocodile now. They've switched the bait to a fish. On the way back, Max saw a spicy strip. This place is really dangerous. Its spicy strips are everywhere. Max fiddled with a stick, taking forever to catch a spicy strip. Only at night does he show the swift and decisive nature of a true man. This spicy strip will make for a hearty meal tonight, boosting Max's confidence and earning Amber's favor. Meanwhile, Snyder has already perfected the shelter. It's basically done. Next, they need to think about fishing. These two girls are a real challenge. They really want to prove themselves in front of Snyder. Redhead Susan wants to fish for food. She wants to prove she's better in the swamp than Snyder. However, for Snyder, just talking less would be a big help. One talks non-stop. The other is incredibly lazy. They usually look more like a burden. Only Snyder is a diligent little bee. Susan's got the fish hook ready, and Snyder's already picturing fish on it. They headed out to find a prime fishing spot. Snyder plans to hang the fish hook on a tree. Is he trying to catch a crocodile? Such a small line is only good for catching small fish. If a crocodile saw it, it would laugh in its sleep. They used spicy strip skin as bait, which even made the salad go wild. After Snyder set the fish hook, they waited for a crocodile to bite. Meanwhile, Jeff's team worried about the shelter's location. Jeff thinks the wind will be very strong after winter. Avoiding the wind is the real issue. Jeff is feeling unwell. He was really sick last night, but luckily his teammates helped out. They just managed to finish the shelter today. Steven plans to collect palm leaves to improve the shelter's roof and then gather some grass to make a bed. Lace's enthusiasm is highly valued in this team. Steven believes he can definitely make it to the end this time. While they were working, Jeff felt his family was a bit uncomfortable. He asked Steven if his nuts felt spicy. Steven thought he was joking. Jeff looked down at his family. Steven's nuts didn't feel anything unusual. Lace's seeds were also fine. Jeff probably got infected with the same bacteria as Matt. After the doctor checked him, he was diagnosed with the same sea beach bacteria as Matt, which Steven found pretty scary. The doctor told him to avoid water for a while. This area is all water. If he can't go in, it's like losing half a teammate. Plus, there are too many wild animals around. The water is also full of various bacteria, which is terrible for Jeff, but they still need to check the crocodile traps. Steven has to take on this task. I bet he's scared to death because the water here is really dirty. Jeff has to stay at the shelter and work. Steven is scared of the water too, but they have to survive. They have to catch a crocodile, so getting in the water is a must. Lacey keeps an eye out from the shore for any nearby crocs. If Steven is underwater next door, he can't help at all. When Steven came ashore, he saw the fishing line was very tight. It had to be a crocodile. Steven pulled the line while Lacey waited. Nothing moved on the other end. He was super anxious. If Steven got eaten by a crocodile, how would he even explain that later? Steven pulled along the fishing line, and a crocodile appeared ahead. It seemed to be caught, but then it broke free. Damn, is this a joke? As Steven reeled in the line, the crocodile taunted him right there. How could he stand it? If it were me, I would have jumped in and fought it. Facing this escaped catch, Stephen felt very regretful. He had to reset the crocodile trap. After setting it up, he whistled to signal Lacey. Lacey instantly knew it was a bust. One whistle means no gator. Whistling means no croc, but the twist is it's still alive. Crocs are everywhere here, so why is catching one so tough? Gary's already roasting jerky, their simplest protein source for now. But who knows if overindulging might cause parasites? Eating roasted meat every day, Amber feels she can definitely last until day 60. The meat seems undercooked, but having any food is a relief. It's day 6, and it might rain this morning. Matt's team plans to check the crocodile traps, hoping for a catch. From a distance, they see the bait has fallen into the water. Matt slowly pulled the rope back. Ryan's heart was pounding. Everyone hoped the rope had hooked a crocodile. But it turned out to be just a branch, and their bait was gone. Matt figured the bait was too small, so the crocodile wouldn't bite. They spotted one nearby. Matt reset the trap with a lizard and crayfish. They were eager to catch a crocodile for food. The water was teeming with crocodiles and large fish, judging by the big splashes. Catching a fish to use as crocodile bait would be ideal. Matt grabbed his bow and arrow, aiming for a fish. The shot startled the fish. Ryan waded in to grab the fish, but Taihua missed it. Snyder, once up, checked the crocodile trap. After 60 days here, everyone knew how crucial a crocodile was. Wax strips were everywhere, so they had to walk carefully. On the way, Susan, with her red hair, kept chattering non-stop, making Snyder wish he could gag her with a stick. Once they got there, they saw the bait still hanging, and the crocodile in the water stared at them, neither side backing down. If it could talk, it would probably call Sarah an idiot since she didn't seem too bright. Snyder shook the bait, drawing the crocodile in. Susan invited her for lunch, hoping to use this to attract the crocodile. They seemed foolish, but they weren't clever at all. Susan found Snyder to be arrogant, always boasting about his swamp experience and ignoring their advice, which she felt was holding them back. After Snyder's antics, the crocodile lost interest and swam away. Seeing their meal escape, Susan's disdain for Snyder grew, but Snyder still believed he could catch the crocodile with a bit more patience. They weren't starving yet, so he wasn't too worried. They'd deal with it when they were starving. Meanwhile, Matt was eyeing the fish, eager to shoot one with his bow and arrow. But he couldn't touch the water himself. It would be better if he could tie a string to the bow and arrow. He decided to modify the bow and arrow. After finally hitting the fish, the bow and arrow got stuck in it. He tied the bow and arrow with a string, and the other end to a small stick. This method allowed him to reel in the fish once he hit it. Ready for the hunt, they waited by the shore. Could they catch a fish with a bow and arrow? Matt and Ryan waited by the shore for the fish to sunbathe. They aimed as soon as they had a chance, really testing Matt's reflexes. Unexpectedly, he actually hit a fish.
Oh, we got him.
Ryan quickly went into the water. To hit such a small fish, that was impressive. Although the fish wasn't big, this hunting method was very effective. Matt took the opportunity to brag, starting from his ancestors. He wanted to show off his hunting skills. Snyder's team got back to the shelter and debated the crocodile problem. Sarah thought the bait was too stinky, but Snyder insisted crocs love dead chickens. They argued a lot about how to catch the crocodile. Why not each make a hook? That way, the chances of catching a crocodile would be higher. Susan loves to suggest everything. Snyder is as stubborn as a mule, and Sarah is clearly a ***. They didn't catch the crocodile, so they had to tidy up the shelter. Snyder couldn't handle Susan's chatter and lack of action, so he decided to address the girls directly. He was about to lose it with Susan. Susan apologized, saying she just liked to talk. She thought her talking was perfect for working with Snyder. Snyder felt a bit embarrassed. This conversation didn't spark more conflict. Instead, they praised and understood each other. I didn't see this coming. Redhead's cheeky, but a smooth talker, and Sarah couldn't stop giggling. With Susan's encouragement, Snyder vowed to work even harder. Without a doubt, Susan's pep talk was successful. At this moment, it was about to rain. Jeff's shelter wasn't finished yet, and a heavy rain was inevitable. They needed to finish the shelter before the rain hit. Lacey noticed they were moving too slowly, despite having plenty of resources. But they were still struggling. It started raining, and Stephen was still out looking for materials to cover the roof. Willow leaves couldn't make the shelter waterproof. Palm leaves were the best option, but Stephen was in a swampy area. He tried to gather as many palm leaves as possible, otherwise they'd be drenched at night. There were quite a few palm leaves here, but it was all swampy, making it very difficult. As Jeff was building the roof, the heavy rain started. Stephen was still out, and Gary was busy with the shelter. It was small, just enough to keep the rain off. Stephen struggled to gather the leaves. The rain made it freezing, and keeping the fire alive was tough. Stephen finally returned. They covered the roof with the leaves, hoping it would keep the rain out. The rain surprised everyone. They'd been lazy in the good weather, and now they had to work in the downpour, which only got worse. They huddled in the shelter, shivering. Snyder's shelter started leaking, making it hard to sleep. We can only stand here to avoid the rain. The fire can't be maintained, and Matt's group is acting crazy. They are shouting and yelling in the rain, jumping at every thunderclap like scared dogs. Fortunately, the heavy rain didn't last long, but the temperature plummeted after the rain, leaving Leech shivering in the shelter. The rain paused briefly before resuming. We barely have a moment to rest. The wind picked up at night, and even with a fire, it was still freezing in the shelter. Cold weather can easily make you sick. They curled up next to the fire, relying on sheer willpower to get through. Over at Jeff's side, Lacey kept shivering. This small fire was hardly effective. Why don't they collect dry grass to make a mattress? Wouldn't lying on dry grass be more comfortable? Lacey could only make it through the night by the fire, getting up to gather wood to keep it burning. None of the teams could sleep well. Matt's group had it best, with a gentle night breeze. It's November, almost winter. Tonight was the coldest night yet. Gary lay straight on the ground. Isn't that even colder? Why don't they know to use leaves for a bed? We shouldn't pity them. We're not the ones freezing. We have blankets. It's now the 7th day. Last night was extremely cold. Before the sun came up, we felt frozen stiff. Winter is approaching. They must perfect their shelter before winter. Once the sun came out, they started working. They kept chopping wood for the shelter. Despite 7 days without food, their energy and survival skills are truly admirable. They used mud to fill the bottom of the shelter. The roof can only block the rain. To keep warm, they need to do more. First, they need to reinforce the wall they sleep against to block the night wind. Jeff's group must keep working on their shelter today. Stephen intends to gather additional palm leaves. Improving the shelter is their top priority. The conditions here are extremely tough. They haven't managed to make the shelter rainproof, much less warm. The harsh environment is wearing down their willpower. After a week of poor sleep, Lacey struggles to focus on tasks and even stumbled into an ant nest. It's a constant struggle. Hunger, sleeplessness, and cold take turns wearing them down. Lacey looks exhausted. Eating enough would help. Hunger combined with cold can be deadly. Jeff is very worried about Lacey's health. He hopes Lacey can keep going. The rain keeps falling in Matt's area, but they don't mind. Ryan even sees it as a positive. Since he has access to cleaner water, Matt is trying to catch crayfish, but his arms are too big, so Riley has to do it. The hole is very deep, and Riley doesn't know whether it's crayfish or something else inside, but for survival, he has to reach in and grab it. Luckily, they managed to catch a crayfish. Matt's team plans to eat it for breakfast, but Matt thinks it's smarter to use it as bait for a crocodile. They hang them on a rope, hoping to trade them for a big fish. Over at Gary's team, Max is using mud to coat the walls. Although it doesn't provide warmth, it does block the wind, which is a form of insulation. They plan to build their shelter into a log cabin. Gary is chopping down a big tree. Max thinks it's too big, but Gary's brute strength is only useful for chopping wood. Because the tree is near the shelter, teammates fear it might fall and cause damage. Gary is also figuring out where it will land. Max and Amber are terrified by Gary's actions. If the shelter gets wrecked, Gary might end up as crocodile bait. Even though there's a big risk, Gary feels they need this tree. It has enough resources to improve the shelter. He dreads the cold and sleepless nights, fearing rheumatism in his old bones. Amber and Max just watch. Max thinks Gary also wants to build a windbreak wall because he has already built one for sleeping. This team looks harmonious, but in reality, everyone is fending for themselves. Each person only improves their own spot as long as they stay warm. They don't care if